Hey, Falcons and NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL Jocks and Pigskins with Tom Pollen. Chris Smitherman's back from his camping trip, and I think Tom might have some questions for Chris with his camping trip.
Yeah,
I'm ready to answer them, Tom. Whenever you got the questions, I'm ready.
camping, Chris.
Yes, camping. It's my wife and I, we wanted to go camping for our birthdays. So it was, technically it was glamping because it was like a little tiny house, but it didn't have like Wi-Fi and TVs, none of that stuff. The purpose was to get in touch with nature.
That sounds like camping to me. No Wi-Fi.
Yes,
Did-
literally. The only thing was, we didn't sleep in a tent in the elements, but other than that, we were remote, man. It was only reason we even had phone signal. Like I text Dave was because our cabin just happened to be close to the entrance of the place. If not, I'd have had to walk and then text Dave.
Well, see, I used to go up fishing to Canada fishing with my dad every year.
Okay.
And it's about the same situation we were in. You were out in the middle of nowhere.
No Wi-Fi then, Tom?
No Wi-Fi out in Western Ontario, which is very sparsely populated. And of course, we did have the one necessity, which is indoor plumbing. So,
Hey, well, that's good. That we had the same. That's what we had,
Yeah.
Tom. But that was about it. It was like we had that in electrical, kind of stovetop with two eyes and a
Right.
sink. So it was like, look, and it was really tiny. It was not like you had this real spacious thing. It was like you're here just to lay your head and you're supposed to just get away from life and enjoy life.
Yeah. All right. Well, see, when people say camping, I think of tents, campfires.
Well, it was so much snow in Wild Rose, Wisconsin, Tom. I'm glad we didn't have a tent. It snowed all weekend long. So
Yeah.
I'm very glad we did not have a tent on this run.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was about to say many, many, many moons ago, there were very smart people called the Romans. And one of the things the Romans did is invent plumbing. So you don't go anywhere without plumbing. Thousands of years we've had plumbing. There's no reason not to have plumbing. So I was about to say, I was wondering about that, Chris, but okay, you did it right. You had the basic amenities, and that's all you need. As I used to enjoy doing that, going up to Canada, Western Ontario with my dad fishing, though. It was the same thing, just a place to relax, get away from it, go out fishing every day, and it could be a beautiful thing.
So, Chris, you and your wife are one of those very cute couples that have birthdays around the same time of year.
Yes, yeah, we do. We have March 10th and March 12th. So every year So every year it's a thing. So she's much more on the birthday spectrum, like in celebration type than me. I'm like, hey, we go do a dinner and that's fine. So she's really expanded my knowledge and my world around birthday celebrations. I'm very much a low key kind of, let's just relax and, taking a movie, get some dinner and call it a day. But with her, like the first year we were together, we went to Bali, Indonesia, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So now, granted, it's very affordable. I'll say this to everybody on the live. It's very affordable to go to Bali, but
Really?
cheaper than going someplace in the US, like even to fly and get there. But she was like, yeah, let's go to Bali for our birthdays. And I was like, well, that's new to me. Okay.
And you enjoyed being there?
Yeah, enjoyed it. It was a great time. No, we had a great time doing that, great time camping. So we'll see what's in store for next year. I don't know. She hasn't really got an idea telling me, but I guess we'll find out. I'll find out probably in July. She'll be like, let's plan this out. I'm like,
oh,
okay.
Wow. It's a multi-month ahead of time.
She's a planner.
Yeah, she's a planner. She thinks about, she gets all the ideas, Pinterest boards, all that stuff. And then she's like, maybe we do this next year. So getaway was this year. And I have to ask what next year is. If it might already be decided, to be honest with you.
She's going to rock your world, Chris.
I would expect it to already be decided. It's like the Super Bowl, you got to announce it years ahead of time.
Yeah, it might be Disney. And honestly, I know you were in Disney last Saturday, Dave. I honestly think it might be we go to Disney, because she was talking the other day about she wants to go to Disney World. So I won't be surprised if that comes up.
Well, I'm now an expert in Disney World. I used to be an expert like years ago, but they always change how everything is set up, and every like few years, I hadn't been there in a while. My sister used to work at Disney World, so she is the true expert, and I got a study guide from her basically, and experienced it, and now I can help you out, Chris, if you have any questions.
Look, I will be asking for sure. So I'm taking you up on that, Dave. Just be ready when the texts start coming through.
I'll be ready. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I will
start saving your money now.
Oh, that's why, Tom. I already listen. That's why I'm like, we need to start now. So, because Mickey Mouse is not cheap.
No, he's not.
He's not.
Where is it?
He charges a pretty penny for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
We already got some comments rolling in. Wallace says, "What's going on, fellas?" Brian says, "What's up, fellas?" Yeah, Brian, sorry last week we didn't have the show on Facebook. I know you're one of our watchers on Facebook. Something was going on with the Facebook hookup, and Chris wasn't here to fix it. So, but we're glad you're back with us this week.
Absolutely.
Catch last week's show on replay on YouTube if you want to check that out. But it's the NFL free agency officially started, Tom, and I mean this has become a really exciting time of year for an NFL fan, and it's been a busy week for the Atlanta Falcons. A lot of activity. They finally have some salary cap space, and they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah, as well they should. I mean, this is why you cleared up all that space, why you got rid of all these players that weren't doing anything for you, just, taking up money, taking up a spot. And it's been exciting to see them move forward and see what they're doing. So, the legal tampering period is always fun to see, because that's when all the moves get made.
Right, but it's tricky because they're not official yet. So you've got all the players have the power in the first 48 hours of free agency, because you do, as a team, you want to jump on guys, get those signings out, but then they're reported, the money is out there, and another team could come in, swoop in, and offer more until Wednesday's deadline at 4 p.m. So
it's possible, but that doesn't usually happen.
It has happened in the past, though.
Yeah, it has happened. But usually once you get there, once a name gets tied to a team, it stays tied to a team. So, it's not that bad. It's just, everything was hot and heavy this week, though. It's like I couldn't keep up with the names.
Yeah, if you check out the NFL tracker, free agency tracker on NFL.com, the Falcons have one of the longest lists.
Yep.
They have 10 guys that they have signed or re-signed in the first 5 days of NFL free agency. So, and I know your Bears were pretty busy as well. Yep. My Steelers were kind of uncharacteristically busy. So, a lot to break down today.
Yeah, there is. And, it's nice to see everybody's trying to, take advantage of this bounty that they had and really build something for the future. Again, I think I like, other than, Jonnu Smith, who's, an older player, I like what the Falcons did because they stayed young. I like what the Bears did because they stayed young. Again, you don't want to get stuck with older players unless you see a Super Bowl in your future. Then you might want to, hit a couple of the older players, fill a couple of spots, fill a few areas where you feel like you're weakest, and, shore up a couple of places. But, the teams like the Bears, teams like the Falcons, they got a lot of work to do, and it's nice to see them attack it the way they have so far.
I think the biggest takeaway point maybe for the Falcons, or the best place to start, is the Falcons are approaching the offseason with Desmond Ridder being their starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're in the market to, we talked about teams that maybe are interested in that last top 4 spot with number 3 with the Cardinals. and the speculation of, I think you proposed the idea of, could the Falcons trade up? And we talked about maybe some other teams that are interested in trading up in front of the Indianapolis Colts. And based on this first week of free agency, it's pretty clear to me that the Falcons are, going to give Ridder, not only give him the chance to compete for the job. I mean, it is his job. It's his job to lose. And if something will have to go really wrong for Taylor Heineke, who is one of the signings the Falcons made this week, if he's going to end up being the starter, it's Ridder's job going into training camp, and the Falcons are hoping that he grabs a hold of that job.
Yeah, they're hoping, but just in case, you have Taylor Heineke, who has started in the past. And last year, he had a fairly successful run until December. It kind of fell apart in December, but you got an experienced quarterback, not a spectacular quarterback, but a guy who will go out and do the things you need to win, won't make many mistakes, and is solid. So, but yeah, I mean, and Heineke's saying the right words. I'm the backup. I'm here to help Ridder, and moving forward from there. So you got to feel good about that, but he is capable of taking the starting role if necessary.
Brian is confident in Ridder. It's going to be good. I have faith that he'll be just fine. Yeah, I think you invested a 3rd-round pick in him last year. I know that's not a super high pick, but I think you owe it to your franchise, if you're going to dedicate draft capital like that to a quarterback, that you're going to give him a chance to prove what he can do. And the Falcons, that's their plan in 2023.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to see what he can do. You got room to make a move in 2024, which, from what I understand, I've been reading, I don't know for sure, but it's supposed to be a pretty good crop of quarterbacks coming out, in 2024. So why not do this now? Find out what you have in Ridder. You might have your quarterback. So that's always the thing. It's always fun to see. It's going to be an interesting season just to watch the quarterback position in Atlanta.
Yeah. Brian says, got to surround him with weapons, dangerous weapons. That's true. Right. And you got to surround him with great offensive linemen. And the Falcons have at least accomplished that in the first week of free agency, re-signing Chris Lindstrom, 5-year, $105 million extension. He's going to be the highest paid guard by a little bit more than I'm blanking on the Quentin Nelson, the guard for the Colts. And the Falcons also re-signed Caleb McGarry, didn't franchise tag him and but signed him to a 3-year, $34.5 million deal.
Yeah, well, McGarry came out last year, improved in his run blocking, incredible. Did a great job run blocking. Still needs to show that he can pass block on a more consistent basis. But yeah, Lindstrom, it's amazing. The two players that Thomas Dimitroff, one that he kind of reached for, and the other lineman that he took have turned out to be fairly good. Lindstrom is all pros, so this is a guy that you definitely wanted to see stay on the offensive line. You can build around Lindstrom, and
I think people liked the Lindstrom pick from the sense of they thought he was going to be a good player.
Yeah, so do I, because I don't think they didn't reach for Lindstrom. He was there for him, and they took him. They reached for McGarry.
And they drafted Lindstrom in the same offseason where they signed 2 guards or 2 other offensive linemen to pretty big money, and those signings didn't really work out. So, I mean, you needed help on your defense too, and they went all in on offensive line that offseason. I think that was the frustration with the Lindstrom and McGarry picks, and McGarry was a reach as well. I agree with you that was the case, but I always felt confident that Lindstrom was going to be what he is, to be honest. And it's great to see him fulfill that promise.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, I've always said, you're not going to find many offensive linemen in free agency that are worth bringing in, because the teams that have them won't let them go. And you see right here, the Falcons had him, and they weren't about to let him go. They weren't even going to let Chris Lindstrom get to free agency. So,
and right, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't. The guy is worthy of the top guard contract in the NFL.
Yeah, he is.
Wallace says they got Gary back on a team-friendly discount, so that was that was a big get and a nice signing for Terry Fontenot. And Brian saying the same thing that you said, Tom. They traded back up for McGarry, and after trading up, it was a reach to draft him at, I believe he was 31. Well,
I think Dimitroff was also being pressured by Arthur Blank to get some better blocking in on the offensive line, get better pass blocking. So
I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think that was all Dimitroff's doing. I think he did it because he was feeling pressure from Arthur Blank. So
yeah. The one question I would have about the Falcons' first week in free agency, you mentioned Jonnu Smith being an older player. I don't know if it's necessarily like I don't like him because he's an older player, but just Brian's talking about the weapons that this team needs to add, and Jonnu Smith being the only weapon they've added in the first week. Look, free agency's not done yet, but
no, he's not done.
You don't really want that to end up being the top weapon or top playmaker that you add in the offseason. And the other big thing, I like Jesse Bates. I think he's a great player. I wish the Steelers had drafted him years ago. But him being the big signing on defense, we talked about potential pass rushers they could add, defensive linemen. And so far, the Falcons haven't made any major splashes in their biggest need on defense, but they gave a lot of money to a position that, quite frankly, other teams just don't really prioritize anymore, and that's safety.
No, but he's going to be a good safety. I mean, he strengthens the secondary. Again, gives the Falcons a chance to, gives them another guy who can tackle, who can cover in the second level. Did pretty good in pass defense last year. So, that's not bad. I still want to see Ngakoue come to the Falcons. He's still out there.
Yeah, he is.
He is still out there. I'm a little surprised at that. But it tells me that I think the Falcons are going to prioritize defensive end in the draft because they haven't gone out to get anybody. Again, I mean, Onyemata is going to be a nice complement to Grady Jarrett at defensive tackle inside, on the inside of the defensive line.
Yeah.
But you still don't have anybody who's going to come around the edge and put pressure on the quarterback.
Right.
It's still not there. So I'm hoping that this is what the Falcons are planning, is to address that with their first pick in the draft.
Yeah, Ngakoue is still out there. There's a few other guys. One guy that we kind of came to a consensus, us and our listeners, that we don't want the Falcons to sign, Jadeveon Clowney. He's still out there.
Yeah.
Charles Amenahu is a top-ranked defensive end that I'm looking at Pro Football Focus's top edge rusher.
Oh, okay.
Tom, and they have Clowney ranked much higher than I would rank him.
I don't see that. I don't know why, but
they have Clowney ranked as the 32nd best free agent this offseason, and second best edge rusher, Marcus Davenport being first. Okay. Amenahu third at 36. Arden Key already signed. He's next on the list. Samson Ibenkam signed with the Colts. And then a little bit further down, 62nd overall, Yannick Ngakoue. So he's still available. Other guys, Leonard Floyd, Melvin Ingram, Justin Houston, but those two guys are older. So I think, if they really want to make a splash in free agency at the edge, it's Ngakoue's the guy.
Yeah, I would say so. And I still expect somebody to, this second wave of free agency is still going to produce some interesting signings because there are going to be some releases. Teams are not done releasing players yet. So there are going to be guys coming out there that are going to be worth looking at. So let's not give up on the fact now that the Falcons haven't made that move. We still have a lot of moves to see as far as who's going to get released to, for cap space purposes. Again, early releases, you got certain deadlines for releases, and let's see what players come out of that.
Brian doesn't love the idea of getting Ngakoue. He gets pushed around in the run game. He won't fit here. That is true, Brian. He is not a good run defender. He really would be, I don't want to call him a pass rushing specialist, but he is a defensive end who would be a liability in the run game. And he really only improves your team rushing the passer. But that's what the Falcons need. So I wouldn't hesitate to add him, to be honest, to try and he's kind of a bridge anyway. Until you get your guy in the draft. So Tony says, "Good morning, gents. He's not in love with what the Falcons have done so far in free agency." Tony keeps sending us more comments and explain what you didn't like so far. We're kind of breaking it down. We like it overall. My big hesitation is, what I already said about the tight end and safety positions being, two of the big priorities. But overall, I like it. And it's, again, free agency is not over. It's a good start so far.
Right. Exactly. As I say, there's a second wave coming. So it's going to be interesting to see how that runs now. Jonnu Smith was always an interesting pickup to me because, Arthur Smith has had him before. Arthur Smith, I think, really likes him. As a tight end, as a playmaker. And if you look at the last time they were together, 2020 in Tennessee, Jonnu Smith seemed to be the guy that the Titans like to go to in the red zone and in short yardage first down situations. And he delivered. He had 8 touchdowns in 2020. 25 first downs. So this is a guy that Smith likes and Smith seems to know how to use. I don't know if, it's going to be interesting to see how that comes out this year, especially with Pitts coming back. But there is a reason why Jonnu Smith was brought in.
I'm getting a comment from Tony. He says that the 3 guys he would have liked to see them sign or re-sign, Oliver, Hargraves, and Ngakoue, are all signed by San Francisco. Is Ngakoue to San Francisco just happen?
Not that I'm aware of. Let me look it up here. But, Oliver, I would have liked to have seen them keep. I think Oliver did a fine job in the slot. I thought he was a better slot corner than he was outside. But
I don't see anything with Ngakoue to the 49ers, Tony. What's your source on that? I don't think he's signed there. I believe he's still a free agent. He could sign there.
He's still a free agent from what I see. So, Zozo, if you're going to keep walking in front of me, have something to say. So, let's see. I'm seeing a report that the Cowboys might have signed him. Oh, no, they haven't signed him. It's just speculation.
Yeah.
So
I don't believe I believe he's still a free agent.
He's still a free agent. Yeah, I am disappointed Oliver wasn't re-signed. He hasn't been a spectacular player. He's been a solid player. But you're going to lose some guys. You're just going to lose some players in free agency. There's not much you can do about it. And it's unfortunate, but as I say, you have to deal with the fact that you are going to lose some guys. You can't re-sign everybody. I think the Falcons feel that they've gotten better in the secondary with Bates over Oliver, but I would like to see. I think they need another cornerback now. So I think the Falcons need to look either free agency or the draft at the cornerback position because they don't have Oliver.
I want to return to a question we got about 10 minutes ago from Smoothick78. Who do you think they target in the draft for defensive line or defensive end, Tom?
Wow. Being at 8, it's going to be interesting. I haven't really looked yet because been keeping up with just trying to keep up with free agency these days, last week. So let's take a quick look. 2023 defensive end prospects.
Well, I do think
Will Anderson is not going to be there.
No. The Iowa
Anderson
guy
won't be there.
that I've heard mentioned. I don't know much about him. Lucas Von Ness. I think that's somebody that a group chat I'm in actually they don't want the Falcons to take at number 8. I'm not sure why. If that's just too early to take him. I'm on still on Pro Football Focus, and he's the 15th ranked prospect overall according to Pro Football Focus. You really can't look at any one ranking though and have a great sense of what NFL team. You have to look at 3 or 4 to be honest. So I don't know if the Falcons have him ranked higher than 15th or if he's really a consideration at 15, but he's one of the top 3 defensive ends. Edge defenders is how Pro Football Focus classifies it. So maybe him, Tyree Wilson, the guy from Texas Tech. I know Clemson's edge rusher, I think he's an edge rusher, is I've been floated
Miles
as
Murphy.
a possible 8. Yeah, as a possible option at number 8. Pro Football Focus has him.
Miles Murphy should be
22.
there at number 8.
Yeah, well, this is a great example of one list you can't just look at one list. Miles Murphy on this list is 22nd. So Pro Football Focus would call him a reach at number 8. But I know I've seen him going to number 8 to the Falcons in other mock drafts or even in other big boards. I think Mel Kiper has him in the top 10. I'd have to double check that.
Yeah, well, Mel Kiper will have various players in the top 10. His big board will change about every week until the draft. Because then when the draft comes up, he can say, well, I had that guy in my top 10, or I had that guy in this position. It doesn't matter that he didn't have him in that position in 9 other big boards, but he can show a big board where he has somebody.
Well, normally he changes the mock draft, right? The big board. The big board usually.
Mock draft, he changes a lot, right?
Yeah.
He said, I had him there in my mock draft, right? So
I stand corrected. Miles Murphy, this is ESPN's consensus. So this is Mel Kiper and Todd McShay and whoever else they have contribute to this list. Miles Murphy is 17 on the big board.
Okay.
So, and I should give a shout out to Brian. He keeps he's talking about a running back at number 8, Brian says. And Bijan Robinson, the Texas running back that Brian likes, is number 6 on this list. ESPN's draft rankings.
The problem is, again, I'm tired of seeing the Falcons go into a season not being able to rush a passer, not being able to get hurries, not being able to get knockdowns, no sacks. your secondary looks weaker when you can't get a pass rush because your secondary can only stay with a receiver for so long. Even a great cornerback can only stay with the receiver for so long before, he's going to lose coverage. And that's been one of the problems is guys can sit back in the pocket all day and pick out their receiver. That's why I've said 3 years in a row, pass rusher. Now, Bijan Robinson, Brian, he's a great back. There is no doubt that he's a great back. He does give you something that Tyler Algier doesn't. He gives you speed, and he gives you a back who's capable of receiving, catching something in the flat, and making a play. So, there's a lot of positive. There's a lot of upside to his game. But I get very frustrated watching the Falcons on defense. And, they keep drafting in the top 10. They keep not taking a pass rusher. So at some point, you've got to fill this position. You've got to be able to find somebody who can make something happen on the defensive line.
Yeah, and I think Tyree Wilson maybe is the guy to take. He's number 4 on ESPN's list. He's number, let's see, he is 8 on the Pro Football Focus. So he would at least be great value in number 8. But the question is, will he be there at number 8?
I think he will.
Audio Garden likes the. Is that the I'm sorry.
Oh, Skoronski at tackle.
Well, I put up the wrong comment. I want to put up his first one. He said that re-signing McGarry was a smart move. He likes the tackle from Northwestern, but bringing back McGarry now would like the Falcons to take Wilson.
Yeah. I don't think Skoronski's going to be there anyway. Too good of a left tackle to leave on the board at 8. So. I mean, I do agree with Brian. Yeah, you can't reach for an improvement lineman, Brian. I see that. But as I say, you've got to have somebody who can make life difficult for a quarterback. And the Falcons haven't had that for a while. They've tried to sign those guys in free agency and have fallen short every time. So at some point, you've got to look back and realize if you're going to get a top defensive lineman, you're going to have to draft one. They're not out there in free agency. Leonard Floyd is not going to be the guy if you decide to go try and bring him in. And it's frustrating, but it's tough to judge because yes, I mean you don't want to reach, but you have such a need that. And I'm not one who always says draft for need. I'm always one who says take the best player out there, best player available. Get that guy no matter what you need. You need somebody who's going to go to the Pro Bowl, but. God, there's got to be somebody on the defensive end who's not a reach and who the Falcons can draft and make an impact in 2023.
Well, if I'll propose this, and then I think we should switch back to free agency, but if you're all if you're all in on edge rusher and you feel like you have to fill that need, do you trade up not for a quarterback? Do you trade up not to number 3, but maybe to number 5, number 6, and get one of either Anderson or Wilson?
I would do that.
You would do that over staying at 8 and reaching for the next best edge rusher or drafting a cornerback or a running back or some other position?
Yeah, I would do that. I could see that. But again, I agree with Brian. I mean, you do need somebody better than Algier but I think you could get him a little bit later. And it's, I don't know. It's tough to grade out, but it's going to be a tough decision. But I do want to see the Falcons finally get that guy who's going to make life difficult for opposing quarterbacks, so they can't sit there and be comfortable in the pocket. I'm tired of seeing it.
Yeah, I think all Falcons fans are. I definitely am as well. And I think this is a discussion we can table and come back to in the next couple of weeks. The draft is still a month away, and we have plenty of time to talk about who the Falcons should take at number 8. One other story from the draft, though, I do want to mention. It is somewhat Falcons related because it's a local player. Jalen Carter again was in the news this week. I didn't follow it as closely this week, Tom, as around the NFL Combine. So I don't know the exact. I know he's going to be. He's accepted the misdemeanor that was charged against him.
Yeah, he got community service for that.
Right, and he's going to serve his community service. But I think the more, not that isn't important, but the more important draft news around him was at the Georgia Pro Day. He worked out just a little bit, had gained 9 pounds since the NFL Combine just like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Didn't really make it through the workout very well, and his draft stock is plummeting, really.
Yes, it is.
Because of the workout, not the character concerns. Maybe that's part of it, but it's more the workout and the gaining the 9 pounds in just a few weeks. And he's going to be available for the the Falcons at number 8. But I think he's going to continue to drop past that as well. ESPN has right now is their number 13 prospect on their big board.
I think Carter could still save himself by working the next couple of weeks and having another workout day where he brings pro scouts in and says, here's the real me. Here's what I can do. Don't be surprised if he has another workout where he's in better and tries again to impress some pro teams. But as it sits right now, he's going to fall down in the draft.
Todd has a good question. He says, can you all explain why after 4 games and a mixed bag, we are not drafting a QB? I would say because they're not in a position to draft a QB.
No,
the quarterbacks are going to be gone in the top 5. Maybe Anthony Richardson makes it to number 8, but you don't want Anthony Richardson.
You don't want Anthony Richardson.
That he needs to go to a team that is more stable at around this whole roster,
right? And
really a quarterback too, so that he can kind of sit and develop. He is a project, and you don't. The Falcons don't need that. They don't need a project behind Desmond Ridder.
He had a great combine, and that put his name, nearer to the top of the draft. But to me, that doesn't make as much difference. He doesn't have impressive film.
Right.
So
not in a position to draft a quarterback. Like if the Falcons were number 1, sure, I think they would be taking the quarterback. But at number 8, and the price it would have taken to move up to number 1 or number 3, it's not economical after taking a quarterback in the first 2 days last year. Yeah. And this was my big concern, Todd. I looking back last year, I was worried that this would be the case, that we have too small of a sample to really make a decision about Ridder 1 year into his career. And they would be, wondering whether or not to take a quarterback again. That is pretty much the situation they're in, except they're not in the position to take a quarterback anyway. So I think they're rightfully saying we're going to wait a year. And Tom has mentioned that the quarterback class is good next year. So if Ridder falls on his face, they're taking a quarterback next year. If he plays well, then they have their quarterback. and they have addressed other positions this year to help the quarterback, maximize what he can do in 2023.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly it, Dave. They get a chance to see if he's their guy this year and get a quarterback next year if they need one. So, it's not a bad position. And this isn't a Super Bowl team. So let's go ahead and evaluate Ridder and let's enjoy the team and really see what Ridder can do. And Dave and I both said last year we wanted Ridder to get an earlier start than what he did.
Yeah, I mean, we would have loved for Ridder to have started some of those games that Mariota did in the middle of the season. At the very least, it would have just gotten Ridder more experience and him more prepared for this year.
Yes.
But, they were in a weak division. Arthur Smith thought that he had a shot to win the NFC South. So, I guess Todd has another question for us. He says, with money now to get players, is Coach Smith on the hot seat? That is an interesting question. I would say no.
Not this year.
I think if he was on the hot seat, he would be pushing more for a proven quarterback.
Yes.
Either in free agency or in the draft.
Yeah, but, no, he's not on the hot seat. Terry Fontenot knows the situation and knows that this is still rebuilding. They're still trying to fill a lot of holes that were left in the team because of the salary cap hell that they were in. So, they do understand that. And no, I don't think he's on the hot seat for next year. I think he goes through and we'll see how things go through the season. But he's got a year to see if he can make Ridder a quarterback that the Falcons can move forward with.
Audio Garden 79 had a funny comment. Ridder threw no interceptions 4 games last year. Levis probably threw one getting out of bed this morning.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I like this comment from Brian. It's tricky bringing up, misses in the draft because I think a lot of teams doubted Micah Parsons as a pass rusher, but he's proven to be an excellent pass rusher and a very flexible defender, being able to play all kinds of different positions.
Yeah, he can
line up in different spots anyway.
He's a great linebacker, as far as tackling, and he's a fantastic pass rusher. He disrupts a lot in the backfield. So, everybody misses. You can look back at every team and look at misses that they had in the draft and say, "Boy, I wish we had that guy," or they had that guy. That happens every year. So, that it's a tough thing it's tough work to prepare for a draft and get the right players in a draft. So, let's see how Fontenot evaluates things going forward. Now, after we've gone through a week of free agency, there's probably still a couple more signings on the horizon. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I think, as I said, I still think they're going to go cornerback at some point in this free agency. And I don't know if there's anything else they can really address through free agency this year that they already that they haven't yet. I think they'll probably go for the draft for the rest of the depth and the rest of who they expect to start for them in 2023.
Well, I think they should still add Ngakoue. You don't want them to add
Ngakoue. Yeah, I'm. That goes without saying. Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
They need a corner to match up in that secondary. Hayward was hurt a lot last year, wasn't able to play. I think Hayward is a worthy cornerback to line up against, line up on the other side, but it's. Can he be healthy? That's the thing. Is he going to be all right for next season? I would like to see the Falcons bring in another cornerback, especially with Oliver in San Francisco.
If you look back at that 2021 draft, and that was the draft that the 3 quarterbacks went 1, 2, 3, and then the Falcons were picking 4th. They had their pick of any of the best players that they could have wanted. and they could have taken Justin Fields, made it 4 in a row at quarterback, ended up taking Kyle Pitts. I still like the Kyle Pitts pick. Obviously, he had an injury-filled season last year, and they just didn't really try to get him the ball. I mean, him and Mariota, for whatever reason, were never on the same page.
No.
And right now, that pick is not looking very good. But
I told you, Mariota was not a very good decision maker. I watched film on Mariota in some of his Falcons games last year. Slow to make decisions. He had Pitts available for him a couple of times in an end zone in a game, and did not get rid of the ball fast enough. Did not get rid of the ball on time. So it's tough to judge wide receivers last year, considering that Marcus Mariota is just not a very good quarterback.
Right.
He's not the guy that the Falcons were hoping they were getting.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think that hurt, our evaluation of Pitts. And we talked ad nauseum about Pitts versus Fields. Well, the Falcons could have had Jamar Chase. They could have had Jalen Waddle. They could have had Devontae Smith. Could have won defense. Could have won offensive line with Penny Sewell. And Parsons was one of the defenders that they could have taken. Went number 12 to the Cowboys, and he's been great for the Cowboys. Yeah. And it would be awesome if the Falcons had him instead of Kyle Pitts, I guess. But I think Kyle Pitts is still going to have a great career. And if we go back to before the draft, I don't think anybody was talking about Parsons as a realistic number 4 choice for the Falcons. So, I mean, that's going to happen all the time. And Brian mentioned TJ Watt. I don't know how TJ Watt, thinking about it now, I don't know how TJ Watt lasted the 30th pick.
No.
But at the time, I mean, that's where draft evaluators had him.
Yeah. Sometimes they all miss too. I mean, it's funny to see where somebody is pegged, and then see his career, and you realize, and a lot of guys go back and say, "Man, we really missed on that one." Yeah, TJ Watt, that's another one.
Yeah, I don't want to say you're wrong, Tom, but you've been saying, almost every week you got to pick you got to draft your pass rusher, and you got to draft him early. TJ Watt is a huge exception to that rule.
Yeah, yes.
He was still a first round pick, but a late first round pick. Steelers didn't have to move up or down at all for him, and he fell into their lap, and one of the best defenders in the league right now.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
I want to circle back to a question we got a while ago from Gary, and it was more general free agency. So we'll move back to free agency for the rest of the show today, guys. But he asked, what NFL teams are killing it in their free agent signings so far? So not just Falcons related, Tom. What teams do you like, what they've done in the first few days of free agency? And before I'll give you a few seconds to think about your answer, I want to mention our sponsor, today's show, brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app, use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. Get started today, and you can bet on the place entries on the NCAA tournament games that are going on this weekend.
Yep.
Baseball's coming up real soon, and of course, we have NHL, NBA, not just football in the Prize Picks app. So download the app, use our promo code ASU, and get started today.
As far as teams that I think have done very well, I think Houston's done pretty well getting Robert Woods, getting guys that are going to fit in when they decide which quarterback they want. And yeah, they get the second quarterback. They get the kind of the leavings. It's either going to be Stroud or Young, but they're putting pieces in place to try and give that quarterback some options when he does come in. So you got to like that. I like what the Bears have done. I really do.
Yeah.
Chase Edmonds is an incredible linebacker, and he's going to be around for a while. He's young. I like him. So, I don't know if the Packers have done a lot, but the Bears with Young, they brought in PJ Walker to be their backup. Dante Foreman is going to be probably their strong short yardage rusher, with Khalil Mack being their more first and second down rusher. So, and Robert Tonyan, tight end, he's played well for Green Bay the last few years. So I think the Bears have done very well getting who they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Other teams, it's tough to say. I'm going through right now. I don't think anybody else in the division and the NFC North has done well. The Panthers have signed Andy Dalton. I think Andy Dalton's going to be the kind of the mentor to whoever they bring in as quarterback. I think that's basically why he was there. Miles Sanders is solid. So, not too bad for the Panthers. The Saints, we got to see what happens with Derek Carr. Can they turn Derek Carr into something more approaching what he was earlier in his career? He just didn't mesh with Josh McDaniels. So it's going to be interesting to see what they did as far as picking up a quarterback. I think there are a few teams that have done very well. And San Francisco, again, picked up Javon Hargrave.
Yeah.
And, that was a hell of that makes a great free agent class as it is, just picking up Hargrave, and adds to an already dangerous defensive line. So you got to like what San Francisco has done.
They lost McGlinchey, though, their left tackle.
Yes, they did.
I mean, how big of an impact do you think that might make? Yes, their defensive line is tremendous, but I think McGlinchey is a big loss.
Yeah, he will be. But, as I said, we'll see what they do moving forward. There's going to be a second wave of free agent signings, and we'll see how they – I think McGlinchey wanted too much money, and they weren't willing to match it. So, I mean, there are certain things you just cannot do, and you got to make the choice whether you want that player or whether you want to give yourself some salary cap problems. I think San Francisco decided that we can make something happen at left tackle. Yeah, it's not great, considering that, their quarterback situation, the way it is right now. Brock Purdy isn't going to be there until the middle of the season. So it'll be interesting to see how, Trey Lance right now is what they have, and Sam Darnold. So, it's going to be interesting with those two quarterbacks to see what they try to do. But, I think McGlinchey, wanted too much money, and they didn't want to match it.
How about, moves that's made you scratch your head? I'll get started. There was a couple this week that kind of made me, maybe not question, but kind of like, that's a little interesting. I mentioned McGlinchey. He went to the Denver Broncos on a big contract. Ben Powers signed a big contract with the Broncos as well. I liked those moves. But the one that kind of was like, that's interesting. Broncos signed Jared Stidham to a contract that included $5 million guaranteed to be the backup quarterback for the Denver Broncos. It is a 2-year deal, $10 million. It's not like a huge payday for a quarterback, but I thought it was a little interesting that they're adding some depth there at quarterback with all the Russell Wilson stuff going on.
Yeah, I agree, and I've been a Russell Wilson fan his entire career, but he seemed to be a little bit diva-ish last year as far as what he wanted from the Broncos. And, with a rookie coach, he kind of got away with some things. Sean Payton's not going to let him get away with anything this year. So it's going to be interesting to see if we get back to the Russell Wilson that we're used to seeing. But yes, Stidham was an interesting pickup. I agree with you. We'll see how that works out for them.
Another one from the Colts that I thought was weird. They signed Matt Gay, the kicker, to a 4-year, $22.5 million deal. It's the biggest contract a kicker's ever received in NFL free agency. And the Colts I know they had the kicker problem in week 1, which led to the tie against the Texans, and they cut Rodrigo Blankenship right away, brought in Chase McLaughlin. But McLaughlin actually kicked pretty well for them. He hit like 83% of his field goals last year. Wasn't all pro or Pro Bowl level, but a serviceable kicker. And they decided to spend big money on Matt Gay. Now, the Colts aren't they're kind of middle of the road in salary cap space. So they're not like, they don't have a ton like the Bears or the Falcons, but they're not like dying for cap space and sign a kicker. But I just thought they have a lot of needs. They trade away Stephon Gilmore. They let another cornerback leave in free agency. Ngakwe's leaving in free agency. They don't have a quarterback. They could use upgrades on the offensive line. They could use upgrades at wide receiver. Paris Campbell's leaving free agency. So to sign a kicker to big money, a kicker that I don't know if he's really that big of an upgrade over what you had in McLaughlin last year, that really, I didn't understand that move.
Neither did I, because and you said it best. You have a lot more needs in kicker. You got a lot more needs to fill. And you're giving up a lot of quality cap space to bring this guy in. And he's, kickers have an impact, but that's too much money to give for a place kicker. And I the Colts are looking rough. So I don't know how the Colts, it's going to be, we still got a long time to go. We still got some, building to do, but I think Colts have taken a big step back. So, and they're going to be stuck with a quarterback that is third or fourth best.
Well, this is typical Chris Ballard, their general manager. He does not make big signings early in free agency. He likes to wait around. He did add Gilmore in April last year, so maybe he'll do that. It's a similar type move again. But I think Colts are getting tired of his approach that he is not willing to open the wallet for big name guys or not even big name guys, but guys that are going to improve the team. He kind of sits on his hands early in free agency, and I think Colts fans are getting tired of that for sure. So,
well, I think the first step is you got to find a playmaker in free agency, and he really hasn't done anything to do that.
Yeah. Well, they re-signed Ashton Dunlin, who's more of a special teams guy,
right?
Team specialist, and maybe he'll play more wide receiver. I think they're expecting the rookie Alec Pierce to be play a bigger role next year, and it's going to be Pierce and Pittman for their 1-2 punch at wide receiver. But they played a lot of 3 wide receiver sets and Campbell in the slot, and Campbell went to the Giants, as Tony says in our comments. So
and they were weak last year at wide receiver anyway.
Right. Yeah, and so they bring back Dunlin, who was on the team last year. Maybe he plays more in the slot this coming season, but
possible.
Then you take away kind of his strength that he can do all kinds of different things and play on special teams. He's not going to play special teams as much if he's your slot receiver. So, but meanwhile, you're signing a kicker to big money. I don't get it.
Neither do I.
And one other signing I want to mention that I think it was a good signing, and maybe an exception to another rule that you like to say, Tom, is you're not going to find big name, great offensive linemen in free agency. Orlando Brown maybe is the one exception. Cincinnati Bengals,
the exception to the rule, yes.
Yeah, Cincinnati Bengals added him, taking him away from Kansas City and adding him to their roster. Yeah. But their starting left tackle, Jonah Williams, who I'm not sure if their plan was to move him to right tackle or if Brown was going to start at right tackle or whatever. The Bengals identified Brown as an upgrade for them, and they were going to figure out what to do with Williams later. Well, Williams has said, less than 24 hours after that signing, he wants no part of the Bengals and now wants to be traded. So because of that drama, I'm kind of questioning the Orlando Brown signing by the Bengals?
I'm not questioning it. No, I think they got better.
Okay.
I think they got better with Orlando Brown. And, it's rough. Yeah, yes, he did. Guy who was reliable, but still, you're trying to shore up the protection in front of Burrow. And when you get a chance, you take it. Yeah, Brown, you're right. He's the exception to the rule. He was a free agent offensive lineman. He should have been kept by Kansas City. He wasn't. And, I think Kansas City is going to pay for it.
I guess my thing is, I thought maybe I'm wrong about this. I'm not an offensive line scout, but I thought Williams was the best offensive lineman on the team. So yes, maybe Brown is better than him, but maybe upgrade.
I think the Bengals probably did want to move him to right tackle.
Yeah,
but
how that plan is not going to work.
That just blew up.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but so I don't know. Maybe the Bengals could have anticipated that and signed a guard instead. Of course, the guards weren't Orlando Brown type talent in this free agency class. So maybe it'll end up being a net positive anyway for the Bengals. But a lot of drama in the AFC North, and it's not involving the Steelers. So I love it.
Yeah, right.
A lot of drama.
Well, the Steelers did sign Patrick Peterson, so we'll see.
No drama there. That's great.
Yeah.
You don't like the Patrick Peterson signing?
I thought it was okay. I think he's I think he's a solid safety. So he'll work out in Pittsburgh. So
I think their plan, if one of the top quarterbacks is available, they're going to take him, and Peterson is going to start with that guy and mentor him. I think that's the hope. They can't 100% know if Joey Porter Jr. or the other top quarterback from Oregon and Illinois will be there at 17. But if they are, I think that's what we're going to see the Steelers do the first round.
Yeah, I would.
They're not targeting at quarterback. He's just the beginning of trying to improve that position.
Right.
I can see you saying, well, he's not really that big of an upgrade. If that's the only upgrade they end up doing, then yeah, I would kind of question it. But I don't think they're done there, is what I would say.
Right. No, I didn't say it was a bad move. It was interesting to see. So,
well, there was a lot of discussion on Twitter about, so he wore number 7 last year for the Minnesota Vikings, and he, according to ESPN, he said he wanted to wear number 7 next season. And of course, Ben Roethlisberger wore number 7 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. More games played in Steelers history than any other player. So a big debate on Steelers Twitter whether or not Patrick Peterson should have been allowed or should be allowed to wear number 7. We really debate the important things on Steelers Twitter.
I know. You got it. Yeah, that's a good question mark.
But controversy averted because Peterson is going to wear number 20.
Yeah, that's good. I wish they would go back to the old numbering system.
Yeah, me too. I still think it's a little weird that a cornerback can wear number 7. But
right. I want to see the old numbering system. I just love that. It was nice for the fans. So but it is what it is. It's not the most important thing that is going to happen as far as watching football.
Yeah.
It's just me being an old timer again.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're out of time today, Tom.
I know.
Thanks.
Amazing how that happened.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and making us a part of your Saturday and interacting with us. We got a lot of comments today, and that was terrific.
A lot of comments, which is always fun. As many people who want to chime in, we're all there for it. We enjoy it. So, again, it's been a fun show, and everyone have a great week.